Hey, 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 hey. Well, I'm chatting with Lady Wendelin before the stream and then realizing, I probably should actually start the stream. Since it is 10 o'clock, welcome to Dad's Den of Pop Culture. Everybody, we're chatting about how they got the usernames goofy on YouTube again. So, yeah, I guess if you're jumping in the chat, you might want to, I don't know, announce your normal screen name in case I don't know who people are. I might figure it out, but then again, I'm old and bonkers, so I might not. But welcome on a beautiful Sunday morning. Hope it's going well for everybody. Welcome to Dad's Den. Dude, I got a video that's doing, for me at least, pretty darn good at the moment. That Mighty Heroes video, it's pumping all my numbers up, doing rather well, which is cool. You know, you never know, especially when you're kind of starting out as a creator on this thing, what you'll get from a particular video. Seems like they change the algorithm about every 5 minutes. Things will be going great, and then all of a sudden they're just terrible, and then they get good again, and you don't know why, and you don't know what to do. So the key thing, if you're trying to do YouTube stuff, is you just do it. You just do what you want to do, and try not to worry too much. You'll drive yourself crazy trying to figure out what's going to hit on the algorithm. But I have found oftentimes videos that I'm like, well, I guess I'll do it. I don't think this one's going to do anything at all. But I made it. Let's get it out there, and they'll blow up for me. They'll do great. And then there's videos where I'm like, oh, this is a good one. Really happy with this. I think this will be great. And it just fizzle out completely. So you never know, but I got one that's going pretty good. So got a few things to chat about today. Starting with Superman #1. So apparently some guys were cleaning out their mother's house, I guess the house they grew up in. And in the attic, underneath a bunch of old newspapers, they found some old comic books. Now, Mom had always said she had an old comic book collection that was very valuable. Okay, they never saw it. They didn't know. But among those was this issue of, it's Superman #1, but it's also technically not, because it was intended as a one-shot. So they didn't put a number on it, but it is the first issue of Superman, and it has now become the highest priced comic book ever. It sold at auction for $9.12 million. So that beat, I think the last big sale was an Action Comics #1, and it beat it by $3 million. So, save the old comic books, kids. And I figured out that comes to a little over $142,000 per page, which is pretty good. And probably a hell of a lot more than the people who did it ever saw. And apparently they had some other comic books as well, old ones, equally old, that I assume will be up at auction at some point. So that's pretty cool, though. That's pretty cool. I see Danny Roberts in the chat. Howdy, you've been popping up in my algorithms just fine. Is that some kind of weird euphemism for something dirty? I hope so. Anyhow, so there's Superman #1 that just sold. So that's kind of cool, though. It's nice that stuff's out there, and it shows that, Superman still has some value. I think he has a lot of value, actually, to society if he's used properly. And on that note, so I just saw this pop up. Oh, I know, dude. It's the same with me. Just finding random stuff. Well, I was actually kind of what happened. You can kind of see in the background some of those Peanut characters back there. And the Schroeder one, I've mentioned this before, but the Schroeder one are, it was just something I had as a little kid that I played with. It got handed down to me from somewhere. I had that, and I had the Linus one, and they just always were around. And then I happened on an auction site to see one of those actual kind of figures. It was a Charlie Brown, but you could tell it was the same line. Hungerford. I'm like, oh, Hungerford. Okay, now I know what these things are called. I know who made them. And apparently that Schroeder with his piano, it can go for a hell of a lot of money. And I was like, oh my God, I finally have some valuable thing that has just popped up in my life. Mr. Sushi Hut. Hello, everybody. Hello, Mr. Sushi Hut. Okay, so Walt Disney. I just saw this pop up today. Bob Iger's doing some interview. And he says, when he came into Disney to destroy it. No. But yeah, when he came in, he thought the people there had too much reverence for Walt Disney and his vision. He said we should have respect, but not reverence, which I'm like, you're parsing words at this point. And to that, I would say, Bob Iger, you are a piece of crap. How about that? Dude, this entire business, all of its success, really is based upon Walt's vision and Roy Disney's management. When Eisner came in, he came into a company that was flailing, and it was flailing because it was sort of moving away from Walt's vision in a few different ways. And also just some general, I think, mismanagement. Eisner didn't come in and say, I'm going to turn this into the Eisner Company. He's like, let's bring this back to what it should be. He innovated, he put out new things, but they didn't feel out of sync with Walt Disney and what he had built. That's where you get Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, The Lion King, a lot of great stuff, and some new cool things in the parks. I think Iger wants to turn it into Igerland, Iger World. I think he's utterly obsessed with himself. And the fact of the matter is, he's a moron. I mean, he's cunning and clever. It's how he got into the position he's in, but he's not very wise, to say the least. And he basically used Disney's standing to borrow a lot of money, to buy a lot of things. And that's his big expansion, and it increased the stock prices of Disney. And then with all of those things that they now own, it has been failure after failure after failure after failure. They don't know how to manage any of the stuff. He can acquire, he can't manage, and he doesn't have the wisdom, and he doesn't have the creativity. He doesn't have the humility to do something that makes sense. And he's managed to get the board, he's got it set up so he can't be voted out of anything. And the dude's a friggin' disaster. He's a disaster. He screwed up Star Wars and Marvel Comics. Dude, easy peasy. Come on. Just produce basically what people want. He screwed it up. The guy's an idiot, in my opinion. So, yeah, to say him no reverence for Walt. You need more reverence for Walt, Mr. Iger. You need a lot more reverence for Walt. His vision is what drives that company. It's what makes Disney Disney. I at this point, I honest to God, wish they would take the Disney name off of the company. I don't want it there, because I don't think Walt would be real thrilled. Hell, forget culturally. I don't think he'd be real thrilled with just the way he's mismanaged the place. The parks are not what they used to be. They're not maintained as well as they used to be. Iger's, I just wanted to vent a little bit. I don't like that guy. I think he's a piece of crap. Warrant Publishing. So these are the folks that do Shudder and Vampiris Carmilla. So basically, Warren-style black and white horror magazines. They have a new nationwide distribution deal with Lunar via Massive Indies. I don't exactly know what that means, but I'm assuming Lunar is the company, distribution company. Now, this is going to begin in February. And I just wanted to bring it up because to me, it's kind of the part of the fallout with Diamond Distributing having all of its issues. And it is showing, because I talked about another similar deal, I think last week. Pardon me. It shows that that the whole distribution thing is being gradually solved, which I kind of knew was going to happen. If something can be done profitably, then it's going to be done. Somebody's going to get in there and do it. And even if the profit margin's not great, there might be somebody who's just a better manager who can get in there and do a better job with it than, say, Diamond was doing. And I kind of think that's where this is basically going. We're just going to move to different people. I've seen also some people sort of upset about some game companies that seem like they're maybe going away. It's like, dude, don't be upset really about something like that. This is sort of how the system works. If you get a management in place, speaking of Disney, that doesn't seem to know what the hell it's doing, or it's not particularly good at what it's doing, it will fail and somebody else will move in and do the job. And generally will do it better. Now, sometimes that does mean the prices will go up, but if they do, it's probably because they needed to go up. There are cases like that where a company tries to hold the line maybe a little bit too long. And if you don't get the profit levels you need, you can't reinvest in the company. Things get out of date. Things get broken. Things are a problem. So, unfortunately, these things do have to happen. But I did think it was interesting. They are moving to a different distributor, I guess, or maybe they've just signed up with this distributor. I don't know if they were with Diamond, but point is, the industry will move beyond Diamond at a certain point. It might just take a little while. Might be a few disruptions. I also saw this pop up. So Letterboxd is a streaming service, essentially. And they're launching what they're calling their video store in December of 2026. Or was it? Oh, I might have screwed that up. It may have been December 2025. So the idea here basically is you just rent movies. You don't have to subscribe. You just go on and you rent a movie for X amount of dollars. I mean, it's kind of what you've had, with Amazon to some extent. I think the future of streaming is essentially the past. We had 3 structures in the past that worked pretty good in terms of delivering this kind of entertainment. You had your commercial television. So essentially you don't pay anything, but you just have to watch commercials. And you can find something like that on Tubi, for example. You had your cable TV. You pay a fee to get particular content and watch commercials. And then you had things like video rental stores. So you go and you pay some money and you rent a video and you watch it. And I have a feeling that's exactly where streaming is ultimately going to be. You're going to have the pay services to get particular content. You're going to have the ones where you're watching commercials, and you're going to have the ones where you just pay a rental fee to watch something. I think that's what makes sense. And a lot of these attempts to do otherwise are just going to probably fail. See, from Mr. Sushi, yes, profits are important for companies. A lot of people now think companies earning profit is greedy. I know. I think some of that is the fact that, in a free market, the buyer and the seller have to come together and agree on a price. And maybe at one point in time, that could just literally be 2 people haggling over something. Can't really do that anymore. It doesn't work. But folks want something at a lower price. They want the lowest price they can possibly get. And the company is going to want the highest price that it can possibly get, and so they there's always going to be that arguing back and forth. I think some of the people who complain are they're just complainers. It's just how they are. Hold on a second. I'm going to go off camera for just 1 second here. Sorry about that. So I think, yeah, you get people who are just kind of complainers about stuff. Can't get stuff cheap enough. But, oh, yeah, and the Disney doing the dynamic pricing. Oh, man. Like, I get it, but yeah, I think the problem with the parks is that you have ever increasing demand and you cannot really increase the supply. You have the two parks. They are what they are. Yeah, they can do some expansions, and as demand goes up, the prices are going to go up as well. So it is what it is there. Final little chunk of news. Big Bad Toy Store, I saw, has a partnership with Collector Archive Services so that you can buy their graded and cased products now directly on Big Bad Toy Store. I'm an off-the-card sort of dude, so I don't worry about that, but I know a lot of folks like to keep everything neat and perfect. And so now you can buy these things in a case, graded right from Big Bad Toy Store. Obviously, you're going to pay more for that, but I thought it might be of interest to some of the folks out there who are collectors of toys. And speaking of collectors of toys, I do got a few items that have come into the den here that I thought I'd show off. A couple are some pre-orders that I had, and a couple of them are things I didn't expect to grab, but ended up grabbing because of a sale at Big Bad Toy Store. Let's look at the ones that I pre-ordered first. The Marvel Legends Phantom Rider, but you could also call him Ghost Rider. I think that's what he was initially. Now they sort of played with the character over time. This is maybe the villainous version that showed up in West Coast Avengers, but essentially he looks the same as the older character. Always loved the design on him. So that was the one from this wave that I actually went ahead and got just because I dug the look. And then this I had ordered a while back. It finally arrived, and this is their Silver Surfer. I think they did a nice job on it. Got the surfboard back there. So I'm going to crack these open. I got a couple others I need to crack open still to maybe do a real review on. So the two that I grabbed that I didn't plan on it, some time back, I got from Boss Fight Studios the Popeye figure. I've always been a big Popeye fan, so I just wanted at least one figure. Now, they have a lot of others. There's a couple, 3 waves at this point of those figures. And so it's like, well, I don't really need the other ones. They're not super cheap or anything, so it's fine. I'll stick with Popeye. Well, Big Bad Toy Store has been doing these daily deals for about the last month with some pretty good prices. Some of the reductions are really good, and they had an olive oil and Bluto that were well reduced. Now, the Popeye I got came on card. These are in boxes. So you got her and you got Sweet Pea, and you can see a better vision of what they look like there. And you got a really big size Bluto. I was kind of amazed at the size of this dude. That is a chunky figure. And at first I was kind of going, oh, wait a minute, are these out of scale? No, it's the same figures. But if you look at, Bluto in the cartoons, he is pretty damn big. So those arrived. Pretty cool. Haven't unboxed them yet, but I'm going to at some point. But you might want to check those daily deals on Big Bad Toy Store. There might be something in there that you like. Also got delivered, again, a pre-order, the Atlantean #3. This is a series basically about King Cole that's being done by Randy Zimmerman and Russ Leach primarily. I've enjoyed it quite a bit. They first did the, Shadow, I always get it wrong. I think I got the ad back here. Yeah, the Shadow Kingdom. So Shadow Kingdom was the first kind of graphic novel. These have been seems like they're going for about once a quarter, maybe, or maybe 3 a year. Because they probably won't have another one out this year. So love the art in these things. Let me see if I can find a good sort of splash page. that doesn't give anything away. Here's the first page, this crazy guy yelling. And this one introduces a new character. This woman, she's sort of a bounty hunter. You can see her on the horse right there. So a little sort of maybe Red Sonja-esque, but very cool character. You also got this little print with it. So very groovy. I enjoyed it. I've read it. I liked it. I've liked all the work they've done so far. It's very reminiscent of sort of old Savage Sword of Conan type stuff that they used to do. So I highly recommend that series. And they got number 4 coming out relatively soon. The other delivery I got from eBay, 1982 Sears Christmas catalog. I'm going to do a flip through on one of these streams with this. I took a look at it yesterday, and it is pretty darn cool. If I'm on time, is he current on the Atlantean? Oh, is he current on the... Yes, I am. I am on the Atlantean right now. Okay, new releases campaigns. And I have to apologize. I am suddenly not feeling super well, and I don't know why. But I might have to call the stream a little early, but we'll try to roll through these pretty quick if I can. So this is a new magazine called Guts. Guts #1 is now out from Aureus Press. It's an adult fantasy magazine, so it's not going to be for everybody. I see Man of War. Hey, sir. Pardon me. Man. $30 for 89 pages. You get illustrators such as Alexi Gorboot, Obsidian Bone, Cam Hayden, and Alessandro Scaccia. It is not for kids. You can find it at theaureuspress.com. And it does have an interview in this with Sarah Frazetta. So it looks pretty cool. It looks like it's nicely done. So you might want to check that out. I have looked through the Sears catalog. There was one little thing that looks like it might have gotten marked, but no, it looks pretty clean for the most part. Marvel Legends Iron Man Mark III armor figure is now available for pre-order at Entertainment Earth, Big Bad Toy Store, and Amazon, $28 if you are into the movie version of the character. It'll be shipping February of 2026. I also saw this come up. So there's an anime and a manga called Golgo 13, Golgo, Golgo 13 from 1971. So I watched a movie of this, but it sounds like there was a series and it was kind of lost and has recently been rediscovered. And so it's being re-released in Japan on Blu-ray. But I saw Golgo 13 on Tubi, and it was like a one-shot movie. And I'm going to tell you right now, it is brutal. It is a really brutal story about this guy who's basically an assassin. It was well done. It really got you thinking. So if you're into that kind of stuff, you might want to go look for it. But so they got like this series apparently coming out, and maybe it'll come out, English dub or sub at some point in the future. But you might want to go check it out if you're into, pretty hardcore stuff. It had some crazy storylines in it. Loyal Subjects mask figures are now in stock at Big Bad Toy Store. You have the Mobile Defense Unit plus Matt Tracker and Bruce Sato, $125. The Thunderhawk with Matt Tracker for $60. The Condor with Brad Turner for $35. And the helicopter with Mike Wolf Mayhem for $90. You can get the whole schmear for $325. And I will have to point out once again that Richard Reel would have made a great live action Mayhem. Dude looks exactly like him. A little bit younger, and he would have been absolutely perfect. 1980s movie, The Professional. Oh, that's based on that. Okay. Cool. Yeah, I think it was called Golgo 13, though, what I saw on Tubi. Or else I don't think I would have recognized the name necessarily, but something you might want to check out. It was good. Fantagraphics is releasing Pet Letra Sherry, an Italian comic by Attilio Micheluzzi. Micheluzzi. Okay, got that right. It is about a mysterious woman's adventures during the end of World War I. It's going to be coming out in English for the first time December 2nd. Excuse me there. It was originally published as a serial between 1977 and 1982. Now, I don't really know anything about this comic, but I do like European stuff from that era. And I thought the art looked really, really interesting and really nice. I think it captures that kind of period really, really well. So it might be worth checking out. You can pre-order it now at Fantagraphics for $35. It is hardcover. It's 312 pages, so 35 is not bad for a hardcover of that size. But yeah, I mean, I'd probably like to see a little bit more about it before I would put that money out. You could probably find more. I mean, in fact, they did have more sample pages on the site. If you go to Fantagraphics and find the book, scroll down to the bottom, and you do get some more sample pages. But it could be very, very cool. There's a 2000s era anime based on this manga as well. Yeah, and I think I saw people talking about that. But a lot of people had really wanted to find the original. I'm talking about Golgo 13 again. So if you are one of those people with money burning a hole through your pocket, we're getting 2 live action Spidey figures from Hot Toys. So it's Hot Toys, so you know it's not going to be cheap. And I don't normally show this stuff off, but I do love these characters, and I thought I'd show them off. So they're going to put out the Spider-Man based on the 1977 live action show in the United States. And this gives you an idea of some of the stuff that he comes with. Of course, it's Hot Toys. So it is 1/6 scale. So it's going to be a big figure. It has the mixed media. It's going to be an actual costume. I don't know if it's going to be a mask you can take off or not. I don't think I saw that. And that does save them from having to get licensing people's images. So probably not. But so you got this dude about 12 inches tall. So he can hang out with your Barbies without any trouble. And then you also get the 1978 Japanese live action Spider-Man. I was just watching one of those yesterday. It was the one with the band that's playing the Spider-Man Boogie, which you get to hear him sing about 400 times during the episode. So they got the Japanese version as well. Now, looks like these are limited to 600 figures, these runs, and you'd be dropping $255 for them, for each of them, of course. Release date is sometime in the next few months, so not sure when they're coming, but it's a really nice piece of work, and I thought it was worth showing that off. Man of War says he got 2 decent deliveries this weekend. The Mezco Black and White 1922 Nosferatu 1/12 scale. That would be very cool. Also, first edition manual of the Planes and Dungeoneer's Survival Guide in pristine condition. That's cool. I got those back on my shelf. The ones that I got when I was a kid. And mine are in pretty good shape too, because honestly, I didn't use them a lot at the table. Some of my other books they're a little bit, not exactly torn up, but they're a little ragged because they got a lot of use. But those I didn't use as much, so they're in good shape. That's very cool. That's very cool. Yeah, the Manual of the Planes was cool. The Wilderness Survival Guide I liked a bit. The Dungeoneers had the cool isometric maps. Should draw isometric maps of the underworld and stuff like that, which don't think I ever actually did. I mean, you would have had to buy, I think the special graph paper to do it. I was probably just lucky enough to get the book, let alone any special graph paper. But at any rate, so there you go. Another kind of expensive one from Mezco is The Leader. So the Hulk's arch foe, which they just released their Hulk figure. I showed that off last week. 1/12 scale, $123 at Big Bad Toy Store. But Entertainment Earth has it for $116 and free shipping. So it looks like you can get a better deal there. There you see sort of him compared to the Hulk figure that they just released. Again, I wasn't that wild about that Hulk. It's a little too grainy for me, but I think the leader is pretty good. Where's I getting the master from? That was Alpha Flight, right? Here's an idea of what you get with the figure. So you get a few hand change outs, face change outs, and the some of the gear, which I suppose is probably comic accurate. I'd have to look back at all that kind of stuff. Which one looks dumb? This dude here? Well, I mean, he got gamma radiated and he gave him a giant brain, you know? What do you want from the guy? Also saw Super 7 has new G.I. Joe Real American Hero O-ring figures in stock, $25 a pop. Cobra Commander, he has his little cape and his scepter, I believe. You got Mara, who was like the lady who turns into a mermaid. You got Snake Eyes. I think it's the Arctic Snake Eyes and the Arctic Scarlet. Like I said, $25 a piece, or you can get the 4-pack for $100. I do have one of their O-ring figures. It was the Zartan, and they're pretty well done. They're pretty well done. They have good card art on them as well, if you just want to keep them in carded forever. But yeah, they did pretty nice with that Zartan. I got to say, I mostly got it. It was the Cold Slither Zartan, so I thought, what the heck, that's kind of obscure. I'll get that. But I also just wanted to look at the quality of them, and they're pretty good quality. Different plastic than the old figures. I want to say it's a little softer. It's not quite as glossy, but pretty good. Oh, the Peter David era leader. Yeah, that was the one that was redesigned by I think McFarlane. Yeah, where he had the big kind of like brain looking thing going. I do remember that. I was collecting those comics back then, man. Boss Fight Studios, guys who did the Popeye figures I was talking about, they have a Hellboy Immortal Champions figure up for pre-order, 5.5 inches tall, $30 with shipping estimated. Not the shipping charge. Sorry, I'm looking at my notes. The shipping of the figure is estimated at the third quarter of 2026. So basically by September of next year. Obviously, Entertainment Earth, Big Bad Toy Store, comes with a pistol and a sword. There you get an idea. I think they did a pretty good job of translating Mignola's art to an action figure with this one. It looks pretty cool. I never really got into Hellboy. I was sort of out of comics at that point in time. So it just sort of under the radar, and I never ended up going back and getting them. Too busy buying comic book series from the 80s that nobody wants. But Hulk novel based off Les Miserables. Really interesting. Okay. Yeah, I remember reading those back at the time. I gotta admit, when it got into the Mr. Fix-It era, I just lost interest. I didn't care much for that storyline. And that's kind of when I dropped out of buying the Hulk. It was right around then, which I know is pretty popular for a lot of people. I don't know. It just didn't do much for me. And I want to say at that point, McFarlane was off the book, and I was a stupid McFarlane fanboy at the time, man. I was like, anything McFarlane is the best thing ever, which I have to admit, now I kind of look back at a lot of the McFarlane stuff and I'm like, don't like this as much as I remembered liking it when I was in high school. Kind of aimed more towards an older style of art over time. But yeah, so there you go. Hellboy Immortal Champions. Boss Fight also has a line called Epic Hacks, with hacks being all capitalized. And this is a Frankenstein figure I saw they had up for pre-order. It's 1/12 scale. I thought it looked pretty cool. $60, which is a little not as cool for me. But let's see. Oh, I'm sorry, I got off. There we go. This one also shipping Q3 of 2026, and they do have a few different accessories for them, including some firearms. So I think the Epic Hacks line is just sort of, being creative. It's not based on anything, I don't think. But I thought this was pretty cool looking, and we do a little bit of pop culture horror here in Dad's Den, so I thought people might be interested in that one. So you can find that in, I think, all the regular usual places. Clover Press is releasing Amazing Spider-Man, the classic newspaper comics, in a bundle. You're going to get 4 books, all the strips from 77, from 78, from 79, and from 80. These are soft cover books, 11 by 8.5 inch size, and they fit into a slipcase. So we're talking John Romita art. It's $110, but it's $110 for 4 years of comic strips. So, I mean, it's not insane in terms of pricing, which I have to admit, I'm a little tempted because I do like those strips, but I got a few comic strip books, and I don't know that I need to be adding this, at least not now. Well, it might be something I look at some point later on down the line. Raimi says he, kind of looks like the cartoon. Yeah, maybe it is more like the cartoon, but I mean, it's just a little Mignola in it though. Just kind of the squared off design that he eventually started using. Raimi says he preferred Ron Lim's Hulk. Yeah, I remember Ron Lim on Captain America. I don't know if I saw the Hulk that he was doing. Again, that might have been kind of after I stopped collecting for a while. So there we have newspaper comic strips. Here we have another one from Fantagraphics. We're going to have a couple of those. The Atlas Comics Library number 9, Adventures into Weird Worlds, Volume 1 by Russ Heath, good artist, coming out March 2026, hardcover, 304 pages for $45. So again, 304 pages for $45 is not too bad when you consider, some of the prices you got to pay for like indie, crowdfunded comics nowadays. There's a view of some of the art in the book. Very cool sci-fi type stuff from the olden days. And they also are hawking the Marvel Creator Collection number 1, Back to the Savage Land by Barry Windsor Smith. This one's coming out February of 2026. Hardcover, 352 pages for $50. And there is a sample of his art there. Somewhat different art style than he was eventually going to develop. He was a little bit more, you can see some Kirby in there. You can see some Buscema. But eventually, he'd get that art style that most everybody knows. But that's coming out in February. Manowar says, seems like where the more boutique figure houses post-tariff are setting in, cheaper than Mezco, but about double the NECA prices. Yeah, they are. They do seem to be putting in the tariff stuff differently. Look, it's an opportunity for some of these houses to maybe give people a deal, and come here instead of coming there, and you get a better price. Just sort of, that's competition, right? Which is why it's good that we have like a Amazon Big Bad Toy Store, Entertainment Earth. There's other ones as well. There's some competition. A lot of the prices are the same, but you at least get the opportunity for some competition. Final thing I saw coming attractions wise, Archie Comics has another facsimile coming soon. Jughead number 327, in which Jughead goes punk and rebels against all of his friends. This one is shipping in January 2026. You can pick it up for $5 at the Archie Comics shop with free shipping for the time being. So I snagged one of those. There's an image. Show these jerks why we call you vicious, pal. So this one obviously is from the 1980s. Punk made its way through everything. Although it was always sort of like, adults' version of what punk looks like to them, not necessarily what the real thing was. Barry borrowed a lot from Kirby. Yeah, well, everybody borrowed a lot from Kirby. When you get right down to it, he was the king. He was one of the innovators from back in the day. Couple more little things to do on this here stream. We're kind of wrapping things a little quicker. But like I said, I don't know. I feel a little off at the moment. But I didn't want to show these off. So in a given week, I never know what it is I'm going to end up watching. But I try to do a couple sort of Christmassy movie reviews for December. So I was prepping an old Shirley Temple movie called Bright Eyes, because it has kind of a Christmas thing going in part of it. And so I'm doing it, and I thought, I don't know, it just kind of popped into my head. I thought, it's weird, like, that they never had Shirley Temple play Little Orphan Annie. She played orphans in a lot of stuff. I'm like, that seems like that would have been an obvious move at some point. If you look at that Bright Eyes movie, you kind of see why it probably popped into my head. And then I thought, no, I don't need to go to a doctor. I just feel a little off. But I'm like, actually, did they ever make Annie movies back in the day? Because the comic strip was freaking enormous back in the day. Had a radio show. I'm like, I think the only movie that I've ever heard of is the one from was it late 70s, with the musical with Carol Burnett in it and stuff. All right, so I go take a look. Well, they did a movie in 1932, and they did another one, I want to say in the 40s. And I found it on YouTube. So I'm like, all right, let me take a look at this thing just for the heck of it. Stars Mitzi Green, May Robson, and Edgar Kennedy. Edgar Kennedy, probably well known if you watch old comedy. He did tons of stuff. Worked with the Marx Brothers. Worked with the Stooges, I think, a little bit. Did all sorts of things. Mitzi Green started as a child star in silent movies, then moved over to talkies, and then later she did some vaudeville too, and then later she moved into Broadway. Robson, interesting, she got started in 1883 when she was 25 as an actress. So she was an older lady by the time this was in. She was playing like a grandma. And apparently she lost to Katharine Hepburn for an Academy Award in 1933. She was like the oldest actress ever nominated for an Academy Award or something like that. Okay, so Little Orphan Annie, this movie. I don't know that I would call it a good movie. Pretty mediocre movie, in fact. But it had some weird stuff in this film that I will now show you. So I got to tell the story of it a little bit so you kind of get some context. Oh yeah, Tim Curry was in that. I always forget Tim Curry was in that movie. Well, because I've never really watched that movie, strangely enough. Listen, when I was going to elementary school, we'd do talent shows every year. And every little theater kid girl with dreams of stardom would have to sing, "The sun will come out tomorrow." Oh my God. That in New York, New York. By the time I was 8, I was sick and tired of those songs. Anyways. So this movie, Edgar Kennedy plays Daddy Warbucks. He's only in the very beginning and the very end. Because he has to go, he's like lost his fortune, and he has to go try to find like gold or something like that. It has to do with like prospecting, right? Whatever. Basically, it leaves Annie on her own. Okay. And she ends up running into this little boy whose guardian, his grandmother, has passed away. The little boy in this thing spends almost all of it crying and whining. He's pretty damn annoying, to be honest with you. That's actually him in the bed there. So he's going to be taken away to an orphanage. And Annie is like, "Oh, you don't want to go to an orphanage. They're terrible. You should live on the street like me." Oh, it's great fun. And then she kind of realizes what she's saying. And she's like, "Oh, well, actually, no, orphanages are pretty great. You'll like the orphanage. You should go to an orphanage." But the kid runs off and follows her. And she ends up having to take him in to this sort of, frowsy looking place that she and I guess Daddy Warbucks have been living since he lost his money. So along the way, the boy steals an apple. The guy who runs the stand, who of course is Italian because this is 1932, you stole my apple. I wanted the money, that kind of thing. She gets him out of that, gets him to the house, and what they have to eat is pig's feet. Okay. Which I assume were cheaper than buying, a ham. Okay. He goes to bed. This is where at this point, you're just like going, okay, whatever. It's a movie. He has a dream. This animated pig, descends onto the screen, and you see he's using a crutch. And that's because he's looking for the little boy who ate his foot. And he wants revenge on the boy who ate his foot. And then the apple that the little boy had also shows up. And he's like a real tough guy, like from, the New York streets. And he's going to, show that kid that they can bite out of me. And I'm like watching this going, what in the hell is going on? It's just one of those things that comes completely out of left field. You do not see it coming. So we have this whole scene of him having this dream. He ends up falling out of bed and waking up and stuff like that. But it was just thoroughly bizarre. If nothing else, throw this movie on, fast forward to this point and watch it, because the animation's actually pretty good. I'm not sure who necessarily did it. So later on, the boy's been adopted by this old lady, and she's this old lady who likes to disagree about everything. So the way Annie got the boy adopted was to say terrible things about him. And then the old lady's like, well, I want him, and now, she takes care of him but when she was, being nice about the kid, she's like, I didn't want him. The point of this is, it was a fever dream. The point of this is that the little boy doesn't know that Annie is just saying this crap to get him adopted. So now he's angry at her. And so she's still stuck in this orphanage. She had to go in to get him to go in. And she's like, this little boy doesn't like me anymore. What was his name? Mickey, I think. Mickey doesn't like me anymore. So she sneaks to this old lady's mansion, and she sneaks in to try to make up with this kid. And she decides while she's there to do a little show for him, because the old lady and her friends are downstairs having like a dinner party or something. So she's entertaining him upstairs. And that involves her first doing a Chico Marx impression with a little piano, and then doing Groucho Marx. And to be honest with you, Mitzi Green did a pretty good Groucho Marx. She does a whole bit of his from the movie Horse Feathers. But at the same time, you're kind of going, I'm watching Little Orphan Annie, and I'm looking at a girl doing a Groucho Marx impression. Just like, what in the hell is going on with this thing? The Annie comic strip was actually kind of like an adventure comic, with her getting into all sorts of adventures, sometimes with Daddy Warbucks or what have you. And that's not what's going on here. It's an odd little story. They never really have done that kind of a story with Annie in movies, or even in cartoons, which you think would actually probably be pretty popular, would maybe work. So we get her doing that Groucho thing. So again, it was like, you go through this long stretch of like, all right, it's like a movie and a little boy and he's whatever, and he's whining and, the poor little guy. And then you get this weird crap thrown at you. The last thing I wanted to show off, though, is when Annie has to leave the house, the little boy's upset, and he's sitting in the open window, Annie, don't leave me, Annie. And he falls out of the window. And the special effect here was really kind of interesting. It's only on screen for like a couple, 3 seconds, but it's the little boy in that kind of position right there. And I'm not sure if they used a still photo or if they actually used film of him, and they just have, the ground getting closer as he's falling. Just thought I'd show that because it was a really interesting effect. Again, this is not a movie I would suggest you sit and watch unless you are a really big Orphan Annie fan. Even then, you'd probably be disappointed. But there are these 3 particular scenes that are really kind of either bizarre or really interesting. So there you go. Little Orphan Annie of 1932. They did apparently make some old movies that I just was unaware of. And at this point, I would just soon still be unaware of it, outside of the Fever Dream and Groucho the special effect of the boy falling. Because think about how we used to do, there's a lot of really bad falling effects from movies like in the 70s and 80s and stuff. And 1932 seems like they actually did it a little bit better. The other review I had is something even older and maybe even more girly in a way. And that is, I listened to the audiobook of Gentlemen Prefer Blondes. Now, if you're aware of this at all, you're probably aware of the movie, Marilyn Monroe and Rosalind Russell. It's a pretty good flick, honestly. It's pretty funny. The music's pretty decent in it. But it's based on a book from 1925. So from the Flapper era, written by Anita Luce. And I'd never read the book or anything. Happened to find, I found somebody posted this cover, which I thought was really cool. I like the art there. So I'm going, I wonder if there's like an audiobook on YouTube or something. And there it was, because it'd be public domain by now, I believe, from 25. So, interesting. Oh, I did. I said Rosalind Russell, didn't I? Jane Russell. Sorry, Jane Russell. Hey, I like Rosalind Russell too. So interesting book. It is written from the first person by Lorelei Lee, who is sort of the character Marilyn Monroe played, who's kind of dumb. And so it's her writing a diary. And the woman who did the particular audio version that I listened to does a sort of, the Marilyn Monroe sort of dumb character that a lot of people associated with her. She does a sort of a version of that in the book, which works pretty effectively. But I got to tell you, man, the book's pretty damn funny. There were a few times I'm sitting there while I'm working on stuff at work, listening on my headphones, and I'd actually kind of laugh out loud a few times at some of the lines, because Anita Luce is like, she was a great smart ass. And so really interesting how, the book is constructed, and, oftentimes you're getting like Lorelei writing about a smart ass remark that some other character said, but she didn't understand that it was a joke. So she's just putting it in verbatim. So you're kind of getting both the funniness of the smart remark and the humor of this woman not getting the smart remark and taking it seriously. Interesting the way they kind of roll that together. And it was also interesting that a lot of the stuff in the movie does come from the book, but it's mixed around a lot. It would have been difficult to do this just as a first person sort of narrative in a film, but they took a lot from the book and actually translated it to the screen pretty well. Any rate, if you like 1920s flapper era, literature, you might enjoy listening to Gentlemen Prefer Blondes. It was pretty good. I listened to it over like 3 days, I think, while I was working on stuff. But Anita Luce she was pretty funny. The thing that got me, I don't know if anybody here has ever read any P.G. Wodehouse, the Wooster and Jeeves stories, or maybe you've seen the version done that starred, oh God, why am I blanking on names? Hugh Laurie as Bertie Wooster and, oh, damn it all. He played Jeeves. Stephen Fry as Jeeves. Very, very funny shows. Well worth watching. Same basic period. And her humor is not super different from Wodehouse, although he's not writing his stuff as a first person narrative. And I thought, oh my God, that would actually be a great crossover. Something that nobody's ever asked for and nobody else will. But a Lorelei Lee Jeeves crossover would actually work pretty well. But I bring it up mainly because if you've read Wodehouse, very funny books, or seen those things, you get a little bit of the idea of the comedy involved. And if you like those, you might actually enjoy Gentlemen Prefer Blondes. Well, that will do it for Dad's Den live stream today. I will end with this week. I got Monday, Justice League America number 47, Justice League Europe number 23. We are almost through with Justice League Mondays this year. Just a few more issues to go. We're in the whole For Justice League America, we're in the General Glory storyline. Justice League Europe is dealing with giant worms. On Wednesday, I got a review of Bell, Book, and Candle, a great old, really romantic comedy, Jimmy Stewart, Kim Novak, but it's also was sort of the inspiration for Bewitched. So that's kind of the thing going on in it. It's really, really well shot film. A lot of funny stuff in it. So I'm going to review that on Wednesday. And on Friday, I'm going to be doing a little show and tell with a vintage toy from 1962, the Vacuform. This was a toy designed for kids to make other toys. Vacuformed plastic, yeah? You're heating up little sheets of plastic and you're vacuforming them over a mold and then doing whatever the heck you want to do with it. I have tested it. It seems like it works. I'm not sure if the vacuum part will work. I really can't figure that out until I actually try it, but we are going to try on Friday. I'm going to be filming this today, by the way. On Friday, we will be trying to actually vacuform a plastic toy live on camera. Well, not live on camera, but I won't edit it, I promise. Anyways, that's coming up this week in Dad's Den. Thank you, everybody in the chat who popped by. Lady Wendolyn, of course, Ramey Butler, Man of War 665, Neighbor of the Beast. And we had Danny in there, Danny Roberts. Speaking of people who were way into Todd McFarlane, Danny is an amazing artist, and boy, did he go through a Todd McFarlane phase like you wouldn't believe back in the day. I don't know if any of that art has survived. Has the Merman piece of art survived, Danny, if you're still on the stream? Has it, the merman doing the muscle thing with the mermaid? Anyways, if you know, you know, and frankly, I'm probably one of the only people who knows. That's okay. So, God bless everybody. Please be kind to one another. Have a little bit of fun out there. I'm actually feeling a little bit better. I don't know. I got a weird, like a weird kind of rush thing going midway through the stream. I don't know what was going on. Oh, there we go. Okay, there's Danny. He's still there. But I'm feeling better already. So I'm going to just go out and drink some pop and maybe read a comic book or something and chill out. Oh, yeah. Oh, is he lost to the ages? Oh, it's too bad. Too bad. Maybe, you know what? Maybe you could recreate it. Maybe it's time. Maybe it's time for you to go back into a Todd McFarlane phase and recreate some of that art from back in the day. So, bye, everybody. Have fun. Be good to each other. I will see you hopefully soon in Dad's Den of Pop Culture. Bye-bye.